Mormons going to Utah. One of them during the prosperous years of the Weimar Republic, between 1923, which was the end of hyperinflation, and 1929, when the Great Depression hit, and it hit Germany with rapidity and severity. During those 5 to 6 years, there were about 2,500 German Mormons that came over to the Mormon culture region. Then, to answer your question, between the years 1948 and 1962, when the church, in the latter year, 62, when the church quit using a certain form, there were about 4,200 Germans that came over from the area that had been Nazi Germany. And 1948 was an important reason, too, because a lot of those Germans who came over had been brown-shirted SS. A number of them had been black-shirted SA. Many of them had been in the Wehrmacht, which was not a crime. And it wasn't until about 1948 that the West Germans and the Allies, the French, the British, and the United States, the Western Allies, lost their enthusiasm for denazification. In other words, keeping signed and enrolled members of the Nazi Party and its subsidiary organizations from immigrating. About 1948 and beyond, they started getting more concerned with the Russian bear. Okay, and the Cold War was rising. Churchill had given his speech in Missouri at the time. And so in 1948 and subsequently, the windows opened so that German Mormons who had not acted so nice could finally wind up coming over. In my book, you'll see an interesting picture going back to the first diaspora, the world between the wars immigration. Fort Douglas, here in Salt Lake City, has a national cemetery. There is a monument there to 21 German POWs who were interned at Fort Douglas in Utah for World War I. And most of these were ships of merchant crews that were in U.S. ports when the United States went into the war in 1917. And all of their crews became prisoners. So we had a lot of German POWs in World War I in the 2 short years that we were in the war. Well, 21 of them died in captivity at Fort Douglas. And in the post-war, in the between the wars years, these German immigrants who came over built a monument in a U.S. national cemetery to enemy combatants who had died in an American POW camp. And in this picture I show, it's early 1939, before the Second World War started. And all these men, who are, most of whom in this group photo, they're posing in front of this monument. And most of them are of the age that they're people who came over between the wars. The interesting thing is it had 3 swastikas in the picture, because that was the German national symbol at the time. War hadn't started. It had a meaning, but that was the flag. So it was filled with Nazi, with bouquets of flowers, and wrapped with a swastika cloth around it and flags. There are 2 gentlemen in there with iron crosses on their civilian clothes, and those were iron crosses awarded during the First World War. And there's one guy wearing a brown uniform, military-style uniform with a Sam Brown diagonal belt, and he's a member of the Bund, the German-American Bund, which was a pro-Nazi organization that existed in the United States, run by Fritz Kuhn out of New York. And they had a very active chapter in Utah.
Thank you so much.